Hey, Whovians, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another Doctor Who discussion on After the Snap. I am Tasha, your host, and this episode is The Legend of Ruby Sunday, a much awaited, anticipated episode to get us some freaking answers for what's going on this season on Doctor Who. And we have had some very lively and informative discussions about this season of Doctor Who so far, and it's making me think, and I love it, especially since I don't have the background that a lot of you guys have, so I'm a little bit lost. But I still think that I've got some ideas, and hopefully you've got some ideas, and we can put this thing together and discuss what we think is going to happen in the final episode. But first, we got to discuss this episode. And yeah, to me, in my opinion, in my humble, it was another pretty good episode of Doctor Who. It was not something that we could. Some people saw it coming. I didn't see everything coming. After our discussion last week, especially with Kyle dropping in and dropping that Sutek bomb on us, yeah, it started becoming more and more obvious that we might be meeting Sutek. But before we get to all of that, let's recap the episode. You guys put your thoughts and theories in the chat, and then we're going to get into a deeper discussion of the theories. But let's just talk about the episode first. Okay, so the Doctor, Ruby, and the TARDIS, they arrive at unit headquarters, which I cannot unsee Avengers Tower. That set piece is going to always be Avengers Tower to me. But Disney, you got the money, you got the budget, and you got these wonderful set pieces. Use them. So I see Avengers Tower is unit headquarters. Now they discuss a mysterious woman who has appeared throughout their travels. And let me see. I am going to share with you all of Susan's appearances. And I guess I got to move me. Yep, I got to move me. So the Doctor announces, hey, I need your help to find this woman, because she keeps appearing throughout the timeline, and no matter where I stop, this woman is there. She's a comm officer in the planet Pacifico del Rio. We saw that. She's someone's mom in Fine Time. We saw that. She's an ambulance. She's a portrait in 1813. And the list goes on. Planet Slug, she's a Slugma. Planet Varsite, she's a Griffin. The fivefold configuration, she's a Bleak. Some of those we didn't see, but we know that they had other adventures that we didn't see, and that she has shown up everywhere. So he's saying, since she's shown up everywhere else, she must be here. And he's hoping that UNIT can find her, analyze her. She's always middle-aged, about so high, 60, slim, fair hair. And they like, oh yeah, we know we know exactly who you're talking about. We know precisely who you're talking about. In fact, that person is Susan Triad. Now, Susan Triad shows up on their screen because they are monitoring her, because they're not dummies, right? They're monitoring her. And I guess I could have told you who wrote this episode, but I just got too excited. But they're monitoring her because S Triad is a anagram for TARDIS. So they looked at it like, okay, they're talking about TARDIS technology, so we need to keep an eye on this situation. This lady, IT genius, who just came out of nowhere. Okay, so the Doctor notes that Susan is the name of his granddaughter. That's after he was reminded, hey, maybe she's your Susan. Ruby says this. So there is still a potential or the thought that this could be the doctor's granddaughter, because she's showing up all over the place, she has Time Lord energy, big Time Lord energy. So Unit also revealed to the doctor that Mel Bush, is undercover at Triad Technology as a press agent. So she is working on the inside. The doctor discusses his inability to revisit Ruby's past due to time lock. He says he can't go back because he will be crossing his own timeline, and that's not something that they can do without repercussion. Now they decide to use Unit's technology to enhance the CCTV video footage of this lady, this woman, leaving Ruby at the church on Ruby Road. In the meantime, Mel also gets a DNA sample from Susan to confirm her humanity. A little tiny part of me thought, oh, we getting DNA. Are we going to find out that Susan is Ruby's mama? But then Kate kind of shut that down because she's like, hey, usually a person who would drop off a baby at a church wouldn't be a middle-aged woman. And at 60 now, Susan Triad would possibly have been 40 at the time of Ruby's birth. And that's not something that a 40-year-old woman generally does. They don't usually just drop a baby off and keep it moving. You know, they would do it properly through the proper channels, put a baby up for adoption. This seemed like a desperate measure. So they were like, well, maybe she's just a little too old to have done it. Ruby, I forgot to mention, Lord have mercy, Rose is there, y'all. Rose, not Rose, Donna's Rose, her daughter, she's there. And she's been working with Unit, but they haven't been giving her great assignments. So she decided that, hey, I'm going to go with Ruby to check out to get this tape from her house so that we can do this analyzation on it to see if we can identify her mother. Ruby and Rose then arrived at Ruby's flat and they pick up the tape. Carla says, you know what? You ain't doing this without me. We're going to find out who this woman is that birthed you. I'm coming. Especially if Ruby's mama is there too. If Ruby's mama is there, I'm coming. So Carla had to get a babysitter for her mama. That's the older Cherry Sunday. That's the older, the grandmother. So Cherry Sunday gets left with Mrs. Flood, and Mrs. Flood drops some bombs on Cherry Sunday. I know Cherry wasn't looking for this, but Cherry got she got a mouthful from Mrs. Flood. And then Clarence noted in our Discord, BT Dubs, if you're not part of the Discord, please become part of the Discord. You don't have to become a member of the channel or join Patreon or anything. If you want to come and have conversations with us throughout the week between episodes, that is a good place to do it. And you can find the link in my link tree, and the link tree is in the description of this video. So Clarence had noted in the Discord, storm, flood, snow, so much weather, right? That's got to be a hint. That's not accidental. So keep that at the top of your mind. Storm, flood, snow. Let's go back and let's look at let's take a deeper look at Mrs. Flood. And I guess I can put me back on the screen if we're going to talk about Mrs. Flood, right? I had a Mrs. Flood. First thing about Mrs. Flood is another thing that Clarence shared in the Discord, which is, if you look at her outfit, she's dressed an awful lot like Clara. So and I keep calling Clara Ruby, excuse me, but she got the Clara uniform on, right? So what does that mean? What is that trying to tell us? And then I say, let's take a look at this, also shared by Clarence in our Discord, and I can't see it. I have to make it bigger over here. You know what? Let me just fill the screen up with this. Because there was a theory, and people were talking about the fact that, oh God, I have to go to it. I have to go to a picture of it. I can't see it. So yeah, if you guys were wondering, even with glasses, there are still some things that Tasha can't see. And that is one of them. Take my butt to the Discord. It says Mrs. Flood is this is a theory that someone posited. Okay, this is not my theory, and this is not probably Clarence's theory, but he did share it. Mrs. Flood is the Egyptian god Isis. Isis' husband or slash brother was killed by Sutek, and her tears were responsible for the flooding of the River Nile. It was Isis had to hide away her son Horus from Set, and Horus grew up to defeat Set. That all sounds plausible. But then I'm looking at the caption and what was being said in that moment during the episode. In that episode, she said, "I'm always hiding myself away." That stood out to me because the doctor said a very similar thing when he was talking to Rose. He said, let's go back to the I'm gonna show you the regeneration quote first. The doctor explained regeneration to Ruby. He said, "The truth is, Time Lords can regenerate their faces like a disguise. So we look different, but we're still the same." And that quote further went on to say, "It can save us if we're dying, or sometimes we can hide ourselves away with new faces." So my question to most would be, is Mrs. Flood a Time Lord? Because if she's not a Time Lord, she's using an awful lot of the language of a Time Lord, right? Then she's dressed like Clara, which is another little subtle hint. And one of the things that you would expect the writers, under the direction of Russell T. Davies, and the writer was Jamie Donahue for this episode. Hearing this, is the mysterious Mrs. Flood the 14th Doctor in disguise? I know that's crazy. It sounds crazy. But we know that there is another Doctor present in this timeline. Could he have sensed where he messed up way back in the beginning of this season? Could he sense where he messed up, and now he is attempting to help, but he's doing it in the form of Mrs. Flood? But it doesn't even have to be 14. It could be Donna. And if it's not Donna, it could be Clara. So drop in the comments what you think of the theory that Mrs. Flood could be a Time Lord. And we know that she's moving around through time really easily. As a matter of fact, it's almost as if she has a TARDIS. Well, no, I'm thinking of Susan. Sorry. Take that back. Bring it back. Susan is the one that's popping up everywhere like she got a TARDIS. But that's the whole thing. We know that there's a second TARDIS. I was reminded of that by Grace in our Discord. There is a second TARDIS in this timeline, and there's a second Doctor in this timeline. I don't want to see the 14th Doctor as David Tennant show up, because it's almost like he would be relegating Ncuti to a side character in his series, because now he is the Doctor. But another person or a Doctor disguised as another person probably wouldn't bother me that much, as long as Ncuti is the one who saves the day. But if you got more invested in the Doctor Who universe and you look at it differently, let me know what you think about that. In the mean and in between, I am going to go back to my notes so that we can cover a little bit more of what went on in this episode. So we go to the time window. Ruby and Rose, we got past Cherry Sunday being left with Miss Flood. We get back to unit. The doctor discusses his past with Kate, their relationship and how he knew her father. I'm not 100% sure, if that's going anywhere or if that was just a subtle reminder of who Kate is. But even though we've already seen her once this season, Kate reveals unit has a time window, even though the doctor has warned them do not have a time window. He knew that they was going to have a time window. They go to the time window, which for all intents and purposes is like a holodeck. I gotta speak in a language that I understand. It's like a holodeck, right? Mel makes it back to, I was about to say Avengers Tower, to unit headquarters, and reveals that this DNA sample from Susan Triad says that she is human. So she's not a Time Lord. She's not supernatural. She's a human being. Ruby, Rose, and Carla arrive with the VHS tape. The doctor insists on using the time window to view the tape's memory. So they go to the time window. The time window is on floor 45. You guys who have Doctor Who knowledge, if 45 means anything, please let me know in the chat, because it didn't, it just stood out to me that it's on the 45th floor. The doctor takes charge, asks Ruby to recount the story of her abandonment, and they get in that window, and before they even power it on, snow starts falling. We know that Ruby is that deal. She's something special, but we still don't know why. The time window projects a lifelike image of Christmas Eve 2004. And that's when we see the hooded figure glitching on past the doctor and Ruby. There she is, we're pointing at her. Then, shortly after her going over to the church, the past doctor's TARDIS arrived. So now we're not crossing a timeline, because this is just the memory of what went on. The bottom line is the doctor didn't go back to that spot. They're just there in the holodeck recreating it. Where we at? The hood. Okay, so the doctor worries about the effects of reviving a time machine's memory, because the doctor wasn't there, but the time machine was there, and they need the memory of everything that was there. So anywho, the woman seems to point at something, and we all thought that it was the doctor that she was pointing at, but she wasn't pointing directly at him. She was pointing past him. And let me see. We know that this camera that caught the footage of Ruby's, who we're calling Ruby's birth mother, that camera is 66 meters away from the road. 66 meters is 73 yards. Thank you, Wind Grace, for that. So 73 yards takes us Herkins back to the episode 73 yards, where the characters of Ruby, the old Ruby, couldn't cross paths with her younger self, so she had to stay 73 yards away with this perception filter on. So I don't know what we're looking at here. We never see Ruby's birth mother's face. She always glitches when we get close enough to see her face, and she does offer this warning to the doctor, which she wasn't pointing directly at the doctor. It appeared that she was pointing somewhere else. So Winston I can't say his last name, Chidozi. Winston Chidozi went to he explored around the TARDIS where he thought the lady might be pointing, and boom, he disappears. I think the woman was pointing at the TARDIS. She could have been pointing further away. She could have been pointing at the doctor. I think she was pointing at the TARDIS. And the reason why she was pointing at the TARDIS is because she could see something wasn't right with the TARDIS. And if we've all watched this episode, we know what the something is, but she saw it before anybody else saw it. Okay, so the hooded woman vanishes, and Ruby was devastated because she didn't get an opportunity to see this lady's face. That's when Mel points out a twister of black sand, orange particles appears where the TARDIS was standing, because our doctor in that timeline has now gone, he's gone bye-bye. Twister of black sand, orange particles appears where the TARDIS was standing, and then Winston, his disembodied voice, starts talking to them, and he says that he's in hell. So now Winston is for all intents and purposes deceased. The time window overloads. Winston's body does appear, and he's pretty much disintegrated into sand. He's dead. Kate kind of looks like she's blaming the doctor for this. She calls for a psychops and a forensics team, and they're about to put boots on the ground, trying to figure out what happened to her man who she lost while doing this favor for the doctor. Now, the doctor feels bad about all of this, but he knows that the only way that he could get to the bottom of all of this is by having a meeting with Susan Triad. Fortunately for us, Mel is there. She has to go back to where Susan Triad is about to give this big speech, which is giving away her technology to the entire world for free. They need to go and they need to meet her before, I think it was 3 p.m. or 3:15 p.m. or something like that. Whatever time it was. I got the script right here. I guess I could look. But so they go to meet Susan. And of course, Susan is about to make a huge announcement, and this is a freaking bad time to try to hold a conversation with Susan, but it's important. The doctor goes and he meets Susan, and he holds out his hand for the introduction, and nothing. He gets no feeling. He gets nothing from Susan. No sense of knowing her. It's like, we have met. He even asked, have we met before? She's like, no, I would remember if I met you, because you're a handsome dude. I would remember if I met you. So we got no meetings between these people, and he gets no feeling. So she ain't Susan. She's not his granddaughter anyway. She's Susan for a little while, but she's not his granddaughter. The doctor says, look, I got to stay here to monitor this situation, because he asked her some questions, and the answers that she gave let him know that something is afoot. He asked her about Lindy from Fine Time. He asked her about being in ambulance. He asked her all these questions about the adventures that he and Ruby had been on, and she seemed to remember it. But what she is saying is that, oh, these are things that she dreamed about, and these dreams have been, keeping her up at night. The doctor is like, there's something more to this, because she remembers all of these places, even though she doesn't at the top of her mind remember it. She has some remembrance of it. In the meantime, if I call that place Avengers Tower, back at Unit, the VHS tape is showing new footage of this Twister entity. It was there. It wasn't there before, but now they can see it on the VHS tape. Kate suspects that this entity is still around and is still hanging around the TARDIS. So the TARDIS has been left at Unit, which means that whatever that entity is that's attached to the TARDIS is now now in there with them. And Morris, with the little cute little cute character. I thought he was cute anyway. He was like, oh no, it's the probability of a trap is 100%, and the trap is here, because we're all thinking if they try to trap the doctor. No, 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 no. That entity is exactly where he wants to be. The Vlinks confirms that the entity is present, and then it began to materially manifest. We got a character named Harriet that we just met this episode, and Harriet was just like this really competent head of archive, is what she introduced herself as. So she seemed really competent, but then she starts rattling off this speech, and I got some of the speech. I don't have the entire speech, but I've got parts of it, and the part of it that I have makes mention of many of the entities that we have run into this season. There is the toy maker, the god of games. There is Trickster, the god of traps. There is Maestro, the god of music. There is Reprobate, the god of spite. There is Mara, the god of beast, and the threefold deity of malice and mischief and misery. There are gods of skin and shame and secrets. There is Incensor, the god of disaster, and her children called doubt and dread. And standing on high is the mother and father and other of them all. For the gods of all gods has returned, and his names are many. His name has been Set and Seth and Sithifer, and his one true name forevermore is Sutek. And the doctor, of course, realizes at the same time, because at the exact same time that this speech is being delivered, Susan Triad is transforming into Sutek. And I mean, the thing she looked like a whole different person in a suit. So like she became a mummy pretty much. So, and as did Harriet, who terrified me after she delivered this speech, and she transformed into the harbinger that she was, because her name is Harriet Arbinger, H. Arbinger, Harbinger. So this is the second harbinger we've seen this season. The first one was the little kid, and then in back in the Maestro episode, and the second one here is Harriet Arbinger. So yeah, we got now her turning into a freaking monster at unit headquarters. In the meantime, so Triad was beginning her announcement. She was overcome by this voice in her head, and we're going back and forth. Kate is wondering, how can we defeat a TARDIS that has been possessed? The entity manifests as a large dog-like beast at unit headquarters, and Susan Triad transforms into that monster. She disintegrates her personal assistant. Then she reveals that she ain't the doctor's granddaughter. What, you thought we was family? You thought we was family? The doctor is shocked because he's like, oh, wrong anagram. Incorrect anagram. He picked TARDIS and he should have picked Sutek. Sutek declares that his intention is to bring death to the doctor and all of life. Now, you guys gonna have to excuse me for just a minute. I need to make a run. I mean, I'm talking just across the hall right here, but I'll be right back, and then I will be prepared. So if you guys got stuff to say, start putting it in the chat. I'm gonna take a little tiny break, and then I'll be right back. am back. I see we got some comments here. So I am going to grab what you all said. 2 shades of red. Yes, he did say that. He was talking about Ruby and Rose because they are 2 different shades of red. In BT Dubs, hello, Win Grace. Y'all comments are just now appearing over here. This is why I didn't address them earlier, okay? Hey, Clarence. Hey, Lysandra. Stormageddon from the Matt Smith era. I don't. You got to explain. You know, you talking to me. I'm a little slow. Miss Powell says she's definitely a Time Lord. Her front door is TARDIS blue. Didn't notice it. Glad. You know what? I think I did. I think we did. I talked about it somewhere else. It might have been on Kyle's live stream. I'm not 100% sure. And there will be a third TARDIS, the memory TARDIS, which they teased this episode when the doctor asked, what is a memory of a time machine? Now, you'll have to explain to me what a memory TARDIS is, or I can look it up in fandom and then I can read it out for other people who don't know exactly what that is. Clarence says Time Window was one of the coolest things they've done in a long time. I liked it. I don't have the frame of reference about it, but I did like the fact that they did this whole recreation of the night that Ruby was abandoned. I don't know what you were talking about them catching, what you didn't catch, Clarence. I'm pretty sure you'll remind me of what it was in the chat. 73 yards. It is exactly that. And I literally, who turned out the lights? That episode scares me. I'm literally, now that one I remember. And I was truly afraid of that episode. There's a couple of episodes that really unsettled me. And look, I didn't realize how heavily Doctor Who relies on horror. And even though it's not like super duper hardcore horror, but there are horror elements, and when they are used very well, because I'm scared of them weeping angels. I get uncomfortable with the Daleks, but I can deal with them. The Ood disturbed me. There are a lot of villains in the Doctor Who pantheon of villains that really scared the crap out of me, you know. Miss Powell says it's interesting that the announcement is with no audience. It's almost like they want the people to be sitting in front of their TV. And that goes back to Wingrace and his theory that it has something to do with TV. And I truly am seeing that, because yeah, we don't want a real live audience, because whatever is happening is going to happen by you watching TV. And the question is whether there's a new free technology. Unit is using Triad, so will their tech go down next week? Right. I didn't even think about that. As Triad transforms to a servant of Sutek in Pyramid of Mars, an archaeologist will turn into a servant of Sutek with a similar face and the gift of death. Okay, so we got precedent that she herself is a Sutek. She's just basically the voice, a servant. And Wingrace says, when Carla said, I know him, he is a beast or whatever, Sutek has the same voice actor as the Beast from Tennant's era. And this is that voice actor is old, ain't he? Like 90 something years old, at least that I was reading. And gosh, they continue, they have no problem with loyalty in the Doctor Who universe. So going back to, is 14 / or Donna masquerading as Mrs. Flood? Do we have any ideas? I mean, as Miss Powell said, she's definitely a Time Lord. Front door is TARDIS blue, so she's a Time Lord. Which Time Lord do we think not Sutek, Miss Flood is? Could she be Susan, the doctor's granddaughter, or could she be a manifestation of 14, manifestation of Donna using another face? Will we even see the granddaughter Susan in the finale? She has been mentioned in several episodes, so it makes me feel like there's a good chance that we'll see her. I certainly hate the fact that it's taken a long time for my chat to catch up. I don't know if you guys are saying anything because everything is acting stupid, but it's okay. We're gonna get through this. Where have I shown you guys everything that I had? And what the hell does this mean? What would that mean? The fact that she's dressed like Clara. And I need to, yeah. Now, Wingray said he does want to see the granddaughter, but only with the original actress because she is still alive. And he said at least once. And I got a strong feeling we're going to see her. I feel like we're going to see her. What do we think about Ruby's birth mom? Is that her at the church dropping Ruby off? Or is that Ruby dropping herself off? And wouldn't that be weird? And that would be the reason why we can't see her face. I don't know. Tell me what you think. These are just the musings of a mad woman over here, because honestly, when I tell you I'm enjoying this season, I am enjoying this season, and it is keeping me doing just this, sitting here thinking about this ish far more than I need to be thinking about it. Clara went back through the entire doctor's timeline, so it could be a version of her that stayed back in time to age up. Could be Clara. Could be Clara. And I just have a strong feeling there's no reason for them to make her have the same outfit on unless we're going to see Clara. And unless we've been seeing Clara, and that is Mrs. Flood. There was a quote that Miss Powell, was that you that said that about the beast? Because I'm trying to find it in the script. Yeah, I can't find it. Let me see. I'm going to share the screen so y'all can see what I'm looking at. Now, go back here. And you guys are seeing what I'm seeing. I'm looking for going back to Ruby's home. Here we are. Here it is, safe and sound. That's your story. But they could analyze it. Maybe we could see my birth mother. Do. Well, is she? Well, if your mother's part of it, then Ruby, you could tell her your mother is too. Now go and get Mrs. Flood, because I'm coming with you to the Nitwit Tower. There's a warning for thunderstorm. Well, that's the radio. And Mrs. Flood says, anything I can do to help. It's nice for me to get out. I'm always hiding myself away. Oh, leave her to me. I nursed my old mom through diabetes and a hip operation. She died of an ulcer, but that was when I wasn't looking. Aren't you a beauty? And Rose says, thank you. And then Flood says, you too, Ruby. Still hoping for that growth spurt. Cherry said, if you're chasing after that doctor, man, I'm warning you, him is trouble. And Mrs. Flood said, oh no, Cherry said, I'd love a cup of tea. Would you, sweetheart? Well, we'd all like a lot of things that aren't going to happen. I'd be very careful, Mrs. Sunday. There's a storm coming in. He waits no more. I don't know. We're gonna find the beast line, because let me see. You said, or did she say it in this episode? because she may have said it in a different episode, and I'm looking for the answer in this episode. Uh, I'm trying to see where it went. Nope, that was when Grace said that. When Carla said, "I know him. He is the beast." I don't. I don't know. I heard about this, Miss Powell, and I'm so upset that I'm not going to be able to see this. BBC is showing a Tales of the TARDIS omnibus edition of Pyramids of Mars with Shooty and Millie on Saturday before the finale, only in the UK. And I think when Grace and I were talking about this last week, because I was like, how do we get this? I want to watch Tales of the TARDIS. And he's like, there's got to be a way, but I don't know it. And you know, if it's a unscrupulous way, I want to see it. I feel like um most of the world must feel when they're dealing with us, because it's like we get stuff so early and we get extra and we get this and we get that over here in the States, and now here we are at the disadvantage. And I want to watch all of Tales of the TARDIS, but specifically this one because it sounds like it is a preamble to our final episode, and I want to see it. The beast is way later in this episode, after he starts to manifest and speak. And oh, I think I know. Wait a minute. I think I know what you're talking about. It was Carla, not Cherry. I'm looking at Cherry stuff. That's why. Let's go down to the to once we get into unit headquarters after Susan Triad. Mm, um, man, Harriet, she started rapping when she when she started saying all the different pantheon of gods. Yeah, that was a creepy moment. And yeah, she is the actress herself is a beast. Not talking about the beast that Wingrace is referring to. I'm looking for that now. Uh, this was right before they put. This was right before they told Carla that she needed to leave because she thought that she wanted Rose to go back with her, or Ruby to go back with her, and she was like, and that's why you need to stay. You need to go on home. So here we are. I'm still looking for just Carla saying that about the beast. It's got to be in here, huh? Nope, because that's after. Yeah, I can't find it. I can't find it. So I suck. What the hell? Oh my God, doctor, are you there? Doctor Morris, doctor. On my orders, all non-essential staff will clear the room right now. Ruby, I'm sorry you're part of this. I need you to stay, but your mother will be taken home. Carla says I'm staying with her. Kate says, get her out. Mom, what do you want me to do? Carla said, come home with me. And you're not helping, which means I love you, thank you, and goodbye. I can't find it. And if you know what I'm talking about, can I control F? What does that mean? Carla said it in this episode when they see that was way back. And the beast is a Judeo-Christian version of the devil. And Sutek is the Egyptian version, god of death. So let's it was way back, wasn't it? I don't know. I can't find it. And you said control F. What is that? Beast. Harriet. Okay, there are two mentions. Where's the first one? I know its name. It's the beast. Okay. So, Shadozi, where are you? Are you in there? Winston, are you in that shape? Colonel Shadozi, you will report at once. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Doctor, when is that thing? Is it now or is it 2004? The doctor is like, I don't know. Ruby saying, what is it though? Has it come from my mother? Doctor says, I don't know. Is it us? Has it come from us? I don't know. Colonel Shadozi, please report. Morris, can you get any readings? Warning. Thank you for telling me about Control F, by the way. I would have never thought about that. Colonel Shadozi, please report. Morris, can you get any readings? Warning. Chronon escalation. It's off the scale. That thing is hot. It's cold. It's radioactive. It's dead. It's everything. I don't know. And Carla then says, I know its name. It's the beast. So yes, she is. She's calling it what it is, Satan. She recognized it. Yeah, I found that out. Thank you. I didn't know that existed. I would just continuously look for it. Yep. So thank you. You just taught me something. But yeah, so okay, let's go back, and the beast is mentioned. So what were we talking about? What were we talking about? Uh-huh. Carla said, I know him. He is the beast. Yes, yes. So when did Sutek attach himself to the TARDIS? When did that happen? Because I don't know. If anybody has an idea, please tell me. At what point in the timeline did they go somewhere or do something that put them in a position for Sutek to attach himself to the TARDIS? I've told y'all like basically where my mind is, and that is that Mrs. Flood, even though I thought just from what she said initially, I looked at her as a threat, but it seems like she would be more of a friend. It seems like she's more of a friend than a foe in this instance. Okay, after the TARDIS ran away in Wild Blue Yonder, so that makes sense. And Mrs. Powell is agreeing. That makes sense because there's been no real other time that the TARDIS was, that putting us back far enough into this that the TARDIS was out of our eyesight. We knew where the TARDIS was at all times throughout the rest of the season. The TARDIS flew away during Wild Blue Yonder. I got to watch that again. I got to watch that to remind myself what all happened. It was moaning in Wild Blue Yonder too. So that's when it started. Okay. The beast is from the book of Revelations in the Bible. Carla may be religious. I think she is. She ain't said it. She hasn't said it. And I'm not religious, but I'm not religious anymore. I'm losing my voice. I'm not religious anymore, but when you're raised, you're raised with the Bible in your hand pretty much from the time this is how you learn to read is reading the Bible. Then I know that I know back and forth, and that is Revelation, apocalyptic. We're talking about the end of the world, and the end of the world is what Sutek is hoping to bring. So it all makes sense. He's going to bring death to the doctor and all life. What was the question I was about to ask? It was just on my mind. Is Sutek the boss? Remember we were talking about the Meep and Rogue both having a new boss, and is Sutek the boss, or is that a whole different person that we might see in some other in some other season show up? Because Sutek don't seem like he's the boss in that situation. He seems like his plan all along has been to get as many people in one place at a time, so that, and giving them this quote unquote free free technology, that that he's playing the long game. I don't know. I don't see Sutek giving out paperwork. And Susan Twist was first seen in Wild Blue Yonder. That is, yeah, she was. So what? Okay, now I gotta go and look at the order in these things, which these things even showed up, like the episode. Because I watched everything, just trying to see. Go back. Where did Wild Blue Yonder, was that the first one? It was the second one. First one was the Star Beast. Second one was Wild Blue Yonder, and then the third one was the Giggle. And the Giggle is what stands out in my mind the most, because it was the last one, and because I really and truly enjoyed uh, seeing Neil Patrick in that. So now when Grace is thinking, oh, so maybe Susan was tethered to the TARDIS and dragged through time via the Mavity change, hence her many lives. So Susan was tethered to the TARDIS when you mean when in Wild Blue Yonder, when it took off and had Susan attached to it, and she's been dragged along this entire time. Is that what you mean? That she's been just a woman at a time in the entire season, it seems like. Yeah, another stellar episode to me. I feel like it's a good setup. Of course, I have seen some complaints about the episode and about the villain, and how we said, come on in. That's okay. Oh, wait a minute. Come here. Even though your hair is a little bit wild, you might as well come say hi. Come say hi. Say hi to the people.
Oh, he just got off the tip.
Say hi. You're not gonna say hi?
The other baby y'all saw earlier was his sister.
I wasn't streaming yet when you brought Amira in here.
Oh, I know it said leave studio, but say hi, Ashton. Say hi.
And you will come in here digging your nose for the people. Get out of here. Yep, your hair looks just like your grandma's.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, "Aw."
Okay. All right.
Here, I like that. So, teach the baby to bring you water.
Yep. Yeah, he can do it now. I think he understands enough now.
Yeah.
He'll take a vacation. He'll walk around in circles and go all over the place before he brings it to me. Yes, you would. And yes, you would. I think his sister, honestly, would be the one that I could say, bring me this, and she would go and get it, and she would come right to me. He gonna get lost. All right. I appreciate you bringing me a drink.
Bye. Say bye-bye. Say bye-bye.
You gonna say bye? Nope.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Okay, that's
okay. That's not bad. Get lost. Get lost. Bye. Ashton Monte, everybody. Ashton Monte. We don't get to see our executive producers too often. And here they are, came to visit today. And yeah, they watched Doctor Who with me this morning, because after we went in, after we had our discussion, I don't know, it had to be like 7 something this morning. I turned on was that 7 this morning? I turned on why am I thinking that was this morning? Wasn't we talking this morning, y'all? Yeah, that was 7 something this morning. After we finished our conversation this morning, I went back and watched it again, fresher eyes, and I had the children watching it with me. They're not as impressed with Doctor Who as I am. Crazy, huh? So, as we have already ascertained, or my theory, I'm going to just drop that out there again. The hideaway thing is, to me, it can save us if we're dying, or sometimes we can hide ourselves away with a new face. Mrs. Flood is some darn body. She's somebody. She's important. So keep an eye on her. Susan Triad is effed. She's effed. She, I don't expect for her to survive the possession by Sutek, if that's what this is. If she's possessed, or if she is a willing servant. And I don't think she's willing. So yeah, she got to be possessed. And I had forgotten that this regeneration was not in front of Ruby. I had forgotten that she didn't meet the Doctor until after the Christmas special. I mean, not the Christmas special, after the 60th anniversary specials, when he regenerated. So she would have no idea of how he came to be. So yeah, it kind of, at first, it kind of confused me, because I'm like, well, wouldn't she know how he became, the Doctor, how he became this iteration of the Doctor? But I forgot that she was not with him. He had not chosen her as a companion when he regenerated. Has the Doctor met Flood at all, even in passing? I don't think they had any interaction with one another, but he did walk past her while she was sitting on her stoop, and he said something to her, because let me remember now. He said something to her, and that's when she talked to Ruby the second time around, right? I gotta watch it again. I don't remember. I'm being completely honest, y'all. I don't remember. The church on, but I bet you I know who do remember, and that is the transcripts. So let's just go to the transcripts and let me find out. Not the Legend of Ruby Road. The Legend of Ruby Sunday. I want the church on Ruby Road. Yep. Let's see if we got that script. So let's see if Mrs. Flood said anything to the Doctor in this episode. And did you guys catch when Shooty said, when Ruby asked him, or said, please don't change your face, and he said, oh, I'm gonna be sticking with this one for a long time. So do we take that to mean that he's going to be the Doctor for more seasons? And it would make sense, because his episodes, or his season, is shorter than the other Doctors, which would mean that he would show up for a longer amount of time than the older Doctors. That's, at least that's the way I'm looking at it. Do we think that we'll see him for longer than 3 or 4 seasons? I think we do. I think we'll see him. I'm trying to see. Okay, so this little part here is where she first saw the TARDIS, and she did not know, had no clue what a TARDIS was. She's like, Merry Christmas, Rubes. Have you seen what he's done putting that there? Because and she thought that Abdul put it there. She was like, You've never liked me. I've seen you looking. Isn't it your birthday? So yeah, she talked about that. And she asked, What is that thing? Uh Miss Flood said a police box. She didn't refer to it as a TARDIS. She said she hasn't seen one on the streets of London for 50 years and don't want to see one now. I need to go and find where Mrs. Flood ran into the TARDIS rematerializing or dematerializing, and she dropped all of her freaking groceries on the ground. And I'm gonna watch this episode again because it's not, it should be top of mind, but it is not. So I gotta, let me go and see if anybody. Mrs. Flood asked the doctor why he looked sad at the end of church on Ruby Road, and he says he could be bad luck. That is where, so it was towards the end. So let me just go on down towards the end. The TARDIS has been parked just around the corner. Mrs. Flood waves it as the doctor goes up to the next door, and Sonic's it open, then up the stairs to the flat, and Sonic's his way in there too. The crack is back in the ceiling. That reminded me of the damn crack that was in my ceiling. Wasn't no goblins and stuff, though. It was a bunch of water and dirt. So, the doctor runs back outside, and Mrs. Flood smiles as she watches the TARDIS dematerialize. So at this point, she knows who he is, I think, right? This is where she starts to remember who, or this is where whatever switch happened in this moment, because this is where she starts to seem like she recognizes him. Mrs. Flood whistles to the doctor. Busy man, sweetheart. You and your box of tricks. You look like you've lost a pound and found a sixpence. What's wrong? And the doctor said, just wondering. Maybe I'm the bad luck. So the doctor says, I'd better go. Merry Christmas. Miss Flood said, who are you anyway? And the doctor says, no one, just passing by. And she said, well, you take care. And our last time that we see Mrs. Flood, Miss Flood almost encourages Ruby to go to the TARDIS. Mrs. Flood nods towards the police box on the corner. The door opens. Ruby walks over, looks back. Mrs. Flood nods encouragingly. Ruby goes inside, comes out, walks all around, and Mrs. Flood said, good luck, Ruby. And Abdul finally says, Mrs. Flood, did you see that? Mrs. Flood, did you see the box thing? It just vanished. It was there and then it wasn't. It just disappeared. Mrs. Flood says, oh, Merry Christmas, Abdul. Stop making such a fuss. Never seen a TARDIS before? Wink. Whatever happened in here. She got switched out. Somebody, or she got switched out, or some knowledge was switched in. I don't know. But this is my thoughts on that. Mrs. Flood's could have been a chameleon arc. Oh Lord, you saying some shit that I don't know. Mrs. Flood's could have a chameleon arc fob watch that she activated to restore her memory and personality after she saw the TARDIS materialize during the church on Ruby Road. So she could have been making herself forget until she needed to remember. That might be what you're saying. But I don't know what a chameleon arch fob watch is. How about I look that up too? Y'all teaching me stuff because I don't be knowing. Oh, you mean like the same watch that I do remember this. Why do I remember it? Yeah, they had put their. I remember this. I remember that. It's yeah. I think I got it. I think I got it now, Clarence. I do remember, and this and both of you guys, everybody is telling me is what the Master used in series of 1 and the Doctor in series 2 used them, and I remember. Yep, and Family of Blood. Yeah, I remember now. I remember they stored their consciousness or whatever, and then they just moved around like regular people until they needed their consciousness again. Both were in series 2. It's okay. I would have never known the difference. Somebody here knew the difference, but it wasn't gonna be me. 5 for me. If we're talking ratings, and I don't even have to, at this stage of the game, I've told you how invested I'm in we don't even have to drop ratings, but drop your ratings if you like. I thought this was a 5, and I cannot wait until the next episode. I've seen the nitpicks, and I've seen a few even in our Discord of just little nitpicks, and I think that for me, I don't have those nitpicks. I thought they did a serviceable job of getting us to this bridge. I hear you though, for sure, Miss Powell. Before we get to her rating, Miss Powell said Time Lords can hide their Time Lord nature and appear as human. The Fugitive Doctor in 13's era also used an arch. And she's giving it a 4 out of 5 until she sees the finale. We are going to put an asterisk next to this, just in case she might want to change it. I don't know. Miss Powell, she be knowing what she pretty much knows what she likes when she sees it. Hopefully the last episode is up to the greater Whovian fandoms, liking, because for people who are a little bit behind in Who lore, I don't think they're going to see as many of the potential problems, as people who are deeper in the lore would be, right? Clarence is giving it 5. Time Windows. Wingrace is saying, I'm going for 4 for now. We'll see if his changes too. Yeah, but 4 is, when you think about it, 4 out of 5, 8 out of 10, that's about average. That's about where, if it's a high rating, no matter how you look at it. Nothing is perfect. And even though I'm saying it's a 5, nothing is perfect. I could have said 4.95 just to say nothing is perfect. But I thought they made good use of the time that they had for this episode to set up the finale and to ask these questions that we're asking now, to start putting those questions in our mind to make us ponder. It's one thing that okay, Miss Powell said it would go up to 4.5 if they stick the landing. So 4.5, who can ask for more? as a showrunner, I'm not a showrunner, but if I was a showrunner, if somebody said, "Oh, I'm giving this a 4.5 out of 5," I'd be all right with that. I would probably still ask, what would have made this a 5 for you? And that might be a question that I pose next week when we talk about the finale. What would have made it perfect for the season? What would have made it perfect for the finale? What would you have liked to have seen or not seen that we didn't see or did see in this finale? Because I don't want them to waste time. This first part of the finale, there was a little bit of exposition, and there has to be, because just like I haven't seen every season leading up until this one, there are some people who this is their onboarding into Doctor Who. Some people have never seen any other parts of the series, and they need to get caught up. So the characters need to tell them what it is needs to be important to them. And one of the things that's important to them, to me, is how a Time Lord regenerates. These things about the Sutek and these anagrams. We know that these are word plays that RTD likes to do. RTD said that the next episode running time is 55 minutes, so an extra 10 minutes. I really wish they give us more. We get in a shorter season. Now, look, it's a shorter season. I feel like episodes should be longer. But I'll take what we get. 55 minutes is better than 45 minutes, is better than no minutes. So yeah. Oh, let me take this off so you can. I forgot I've got this drink is hot and or trying to soothe my throat so that I can talk. Is there anything else that you guys want to bring up? We're gonna speak now, forever hold a peace. What are our theories? If you're not wanting to give your theory, I say tell us, point us into the direction, and you can do that in the chat. Point us in the direction of where we can hear your theories on your presentation, because I know Win Grace has a channel. It's called the Win Grace Project, and Clarence is part of Discussing Who, which is part of the Discussing Network umbrella of podcasts, and they do their recaps. I'm so confused about what day of the week it is. Tomorrow at 7:30 Central. So if you are on Central Time, if you're not, it's a little later. They, and I say they, I'm talking Clarence, Kyle, and Lee. Now Lee he's done some writing for Star Trek. Lee knows his ish. Kyle has been a fan of Doctor Who for forever, and he knows his ish. He was in the chat with you all last week. And then Clarence, we all know Clarence knows his stuff. Clarence knows his stuff, and you know his takes on things might not sit in like technicality and the technical language of things. You're getting a person who is truly just a fan of the series, giving you a fan's perspective, and I love it. I'm 90% of the time there. Sometimes I oversleep, but I will always watch it again, and I invite you guys to come and watch it with us. Again, Win Grace and Clarence, they my buddies, they my pals, and we gonna egg each other on until it don't stop. Big want to know from Win Grace. This season is intended to be a quote unquote fresh start for newbies, but how did the Sutek reveal land for a first timer who didn't follow the speculation? I mean, for a first timer though, should they be able to guess, or should they just be in it for the story? Is it too hard for a person, and this is their first time watching, is it too hard for them to grasp what's going on? And I don't think it is, because we've been introduced to all kinds of people this season, and people seem to get it. Now, I don't know about new people, but people are understanding. I think it's harder for the old time fans to be like, okay, why did y'all bring him back? What is this all about? You know, are we trying to tie together all of these different iterations of Who? Because we've already had the old school Who from way back in the day when I was a little bitty girl. Then we have our new Who, right? That many people are following, and it's trying to marry all three generations, I guess, of Doctor Who into this generation of Doctor Who. So I think they're embracing the challenge of indoctrinating new Whovians. Miss Powell said she would have liked at the end of Rogue a tag that they need to go to Unit, and why the Doctor was prioritizing Ruby's birth mom when S Triad seemed pressing. I agree in a way, because you would have thought that would have been top of mind, but I think that he went there and didn't expect them to have the answers right away. He thought that they were going to have to look for Susan Triad, just like he's trying to figure out who she is. He thought that they would have to figure out. He didn't know that they were going to have information on Susan Triad immediately. Now, why he didn't stop everything when he realized they did and start looking into Susan Triad a little bit more, that's a little beyond me. That's something to think about. He's there to find Ruby's people, a person, her mama, and this other thing that is more important. You know, I just thought about that. And I'm sorry, I stopped myself in the middle of a thought. Thanks. Oh, you're welcome. You give us so much entertainment. Thank you, Clarence. And Clarence, you're gonna answer Win Grace because I kind of want to know too. And what was I gonna say? There's three. Everything is threes. Is that something that is always part of Doctor Who lore? Because we also have three distinct sections of Doctor Who. And are we trying to form a triangle? Or it's like everything has been triangular. That triangle shape of the landmine. It was other, and I can't remember everything. Y'all can tell that my mind ain't what it used to be. I forget a lot. But everything has been pointing to threes, even to the point where Miss Powell, way back in the top of the chat, way at the beginning of the chat, said she believes that there's going to be a third TARDIS that shows up in this timeline. 333. Again, we got three distinct sections of Doctor Who, and they're all coming together. I'm hoping that this triangle situation is rectified, where I know why they continuously mention things happening in threes. Of course, that is also biblical. Things happen in threes. You got the Father, the Son, and the what? Holy Spirit. So there is the Trinity, is what we call it. And here we are, double O inside. I've watched every episode of New Who, but never watched a single episode of Classic Who. And for me, they have always done classic callbacks very well, to a point. Even if I didn't know, I kind of know. Good, because I feel that way too. You know, little girl Classic Who was on at the house. I was terrified of that stuff. I didn't really get into Doctor Who until New Who. So yeah. Girl, remember the devil's chord is a tritone or a triad, or by the way, three. There are so many mentions of triangles, three. Something is happening in threes. And what does that mean? Does anybody with Doctor Who knowledge know? Clarence says, I think it's done well here. You could dig deeper, but it's not necessarily needed. And Ms. Powell family is always on it. She is always on it. That's why I love it when I get you guys all in the chat together, because you know what you're talking about. BT Dubs, if you guys haven't hit the like button, please do that. Subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get to 2,000 subscribers on YouTube before the end of July, and I was at 1870, and yeah, I've been trying for 2,000 for a little while. So help me out, help a sister out. I love having y'all in the chat. I missed Miss Powell for Discovery. Were you, because she was missing. I know when you ain't around, sister. I know when you ain't around. But I missed you, and I'm glad you are joining us for Who. Really am. What else? I'm very right now I'm very interested in going back and trying to see if there is something that tells us what the third is. But I'm still, oh, and we know we're getting next season. We know we're getting an extra companion. Do you think we'll be introduced to the extra companion this season, leading into next season, or will we only see her moving into next season? The first few episodes of next season. Thank you so much, Miss Powell. Yes. So do we think that we'll see Monday, but her name won't be Monday, probably. It'll probably be something different. Do you think we'll see her this season? And how do we explain that? Because Monday was on a different timeline, in a different place. How will she enter the chat for this next season of Doctor Who? We don't have to think about it too much. Just let it, let that marinate. Let that marinate, because when we have our final conversation about Doctor Who, I want y'all to drop everything that you think you can drop on the chat. Just drop it on us and let us think about where this thing can be going from here. Miss Wingray said, I don't think we'll see her again this season unless they show flashbacks to the entire season of things. Okay. It would be weird to see her, especially since we got so much to wrap up. We still got Mrs. Flood. We know who Sutek, we know about Sutek, and there has to be a trinity of sorts, probably, that will defeat Sutek. Maybe that's what we've been pointing at for this entire time. Oh, girl, I forgot about you at Disco. I forgot. What was I going to say? Are you doing Prodigy on Netflix? I don't think I'm going to be able to do week by week, but me, Clarence, and Winggrace might be cooking something up for Prodigy. We'll let you guys know. We'll keep you guys apprised. I wonder if the search for Susan will be the Christmas special. Thank you for reminding me. I'll be forgetting that Doctor Who has a formula, and they stick to their formula. We get a Christmas special, and then we get the next season of Who. What I want to see, I guess, is I really, really want them to bring Susan out. There has to be this is me. This is Tasha. Y'all know how I get when I start getting too attached to a theory. I want to see Susan this season. That don't mean we have to see Susan this season. That's just what Tasha wants. And if we don't get it, guess what? Not going to be terribly disappointed by it because it's just, it's just something I want. But if they wait until the Christmas special, I wouldn't be mad at that. It's only a few months. Hopefully, I can be patient, and hopefully we're all here. We'll all come and watch, together. Suddenly, Susan. And Miss Powell says she'll watch that special on Prodigy, but she says she's not doing disco. And she ain't got to worry about it no more. Disco is over. Oh, gosh. Clarence said the events of this season might be enough to make him go back and look for her. Yeah, this is a lot of incentive, especially since he thought he might accidentally run into her. But he thinks that he would be bad for her because he's like, trouble always follows him. So I don't know. Double O inside. The doctor explaining regeneration to Ruby, he said, we can use it to change our face and hide ourselves away. Mrs. Flood said, 10 minutes later, I'm always hiding myself away. Time Lord confirmed. That was my question. I asked the exact same type of question. I thought that after we saw him say, so this is how we know we all thinking alike, Double O inside, The truth is, Time Lords can regenerate their faces like a disguise, so we look different, but we're still the same. And then he said, it can save us if we're dying, or sometimes we can hide ourselves away with a new face. And then we saw Mrs. Flood drop that same line like it was a mixtape. This was her version of that same line. They're right there, hiding herself away. I think she is a Time Lord. I posited that she is either the 14th Doctor or Donna. But Clara is in the mix because I don't know if you were here, Double O Inside, but she got on the whole Clara starter kit. She got on the Clara starter pack. She got on that sweater with the little the little shirt button all the way up to the neck. She's got that on. So is she Clara? Is she Donna? Is she 14? Is she somebody else entirely? That is our question. And I am very excited to get the answer. Miss Powell said they've already filmed season 2 with Shooty, so we shouldn't have a years long gap, which is excellent. Because first and foremost, if I had one complaint about this season, it's because it was so short. Those couple of episodes where we were Dr. Light, I like the Doctor in Doctor Who, unless it was like 73 Yards was fantastic. And I loved the episode. I would have liked to have seen more of the Doctor, but we didn't need him. This was a story that was kind of setting up Ruby. The 73 Yards is the same 73 Yards, just in case you didn't hear us earlier, Double O Inside. The 73 Yards is the same amount of distance between that camera on Ruby Road that was catching Ruby's quote unquote birth mother, dropping her off at the church. That camera was 66 meters away from the road, which is 73 yards. Plus, we had that comment about how his children are in his future. Exactly. The children were born, or the grandchild came into his life prior to his children who had not been born yet. God, timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. Clarence says, I really hope she's not the master. I hope not either. Give us something different, you know. Wingray says, we also have Jenny floating around out there as far as Time Lords go. Don't think it's her, but be so cool to see her again. Double O Inside, you're the first channel I've seen acknowledge this. I think everyone is dismissing Mrs. Flood's dialogue in this episode because of how many misdirects there have been, but that was some specific dialogue. I agree. When I heard him say it right, like not shortly after, or I think it was, whichever way it went, I was like, that sounded familiar. When I watched it again today, I was like, oh, that's not by accident. He didn't say those are not things that you just say in that specific, those specific words in that specific way. She's got to have Time Lord energy. But Miss Powell pointed out earlier in our chat, I got some real smart Whovians in this chat, by the way. But in our chat earlier, she was like, have you noticed that Miss Flood's door is TARDIS blue? All of these things are pointing at Miss Flood being something other than just a nosy neighbor. She is, it seems, a Time Lord. Now, which one is the question? We know that 14 has been living his existence in this timeline. We also know that Donna got some Time Lord energy, and even Rose, right? Am I right? Rose got it too. She got it from her mama. So yes, there are a lot of people who could potentially help save the day in this. It seems like we could have 3 Time Lords. We could have 3 TARDISes. And I do agree with I think it was Wingrace who said that second TARDIS is going to come in real handy because we got another TARDIS in this timeline. All of these things, of course, are not accidents. RTD sets things up, and then he pays them off way later, but there always is a payoff, and I trust him to pay that off as well. So thank you, Double O Inside. I hope that you will join us again on our last, or for the last episode, because we could continue to do some Doctor Who stuff, depending on the reaction. I don't particularly care if this gets thousands or whatever amounts of views. I enjoy the interaction with you all, and if I get 20 views, if I get 50 views, and it was a good chat, I'm okay with that, So hopefully you'll join us again. Everybody, in fact, I know that there are some people who have not said, have not had anything to comment in the chat, and that's okay. I still love you being here. And make sure you hit the like button wherever you're watching. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, and then I know we got Double O Inside on Twitch. I know at least we got one person over there. And tomorrow I'm going to be doing the Evil chat. If you're watching Evil, then join me tomorrow. Come on back, because that was another crazy episode of Evil. I'm absolutely going to do The Boys. I thought I wasn't, but I am. And I think The Boys, I'm going to schedule that, but I think I'm going to do it on Wednesday. But don't hold me to that. Just look for the announcement. It'll be coming out soon. Thank you. And thank you again to all of my friends in the chat. You guys are what make it a very good discussion. And Double O Inside said, thought-provoking. You guys provide all of that. I'm just giving you a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of food for thought. And then you guys hit me over the head with theories like none other. Again, Clarence, our friend in the chat, he's a part of Discussing Network, and they do Discussing Who tomorrow night, 7:30 Central. Join me tomorrow to watch them. And if you're doing Evil again, you can watch Evil with me tomorrow, and you can do The Boys with me on Wednesday, and we'll be counting down the hours for the Doctor Who finale. And if I come up with anything else, we'll come back here and toss around some theories for a little while. So thank you guys for being here. It has been so much fun. Peace out. See you guys next time.